Butcher here. So I'm doing this not far from the last update video. Um, so I'm gonna be quickly running this through so I can get this out of the way before I have to go to work. Um, Welcome to the lost pages. I will not be writing this down, so you don't have to worry about me bringing out the lost pages notebook. Um, but yeah, welcome to the Walten files. Basically, this is made by a YouTuber who was inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's and other things. I'm pretty sure he has inspiration from Apple Farm, Andy's Apple Farm, or you know, he Apple Farm has that. But anyways, basically, it is. I'm trying to give you a timeline, but basically, two college um, students known as Jack Walten and Felix, I think it's Crocon, Creakin, or whatever it is. They teamed up and said, "We'll make a business. We'll make it a entertainment center." They decided to reach out to a Cyber Fun Interactive, I think it was, and that they gave them the merchandise, the push and shove to actually get into a business where they make Bon's Burgers, which is basically Bonnie on steroids, um, in a burger establishment for Five Nights at Freddy's. Um, I believe the establishment was released and shut down within 1974. Um, but big thing is there was incidents that led up hugely to it. I'll cover it later. But basically, after the shutdown, they try to recommission Bond's Burgers by 1982, I think it was. And basically, they were doing there was two projects. There was the relocation project, which would lead up to 1982, but there also was a restoration slash storage facility project. It was called Project K9. It was a storage facility, basically a bunker where they stored all the stuff from Bond's Burgers into it. That way, they can have people constantly do maintenance, clean the stuff, and once finally they have a setup, they can bring that stuff over. So they hired a caretaker. They hired tech support and other things to restore some of the stuff, and most of the time it was a failure. They tried to restore a lot of the animatronics, and that was a failure. The caretaker went missing, and that canceled the entire project. The last thing, like right now, we only have three parts. There's also a little bit of extra background videos, but part four is supposed to come out soon, hopefully, because we do have some missing pieces in here. So the big thing that really started this off was in 1974. You know, they were finishing up their paperwork and all that to set up Bond's Burgers. And one time, so I might as well explain the situation. Um, Felix had a wife, and I don't remember her name, but I guess Felix was an alcoholic, and he basically made it where his wife couldn't mentally take it. So in 1974, I think it was in May. I think that's what it was in May of that. So the spring, she left him to go to Hurricane, Texas. I think it was, um, to get away from the abuse and the mental rundown, basically. Um, and then of course this made him more of a drunk. So he was more of a drunk before, but he became a super alcoholic after that. But I guess right the same day that she left him and left him a note saying that she was gone, um, Jack asked him. You know, he's got a wife named Rosemary. He's got like a oldest sibling known as Sophie. They have a middle child named Ed, and then they have the youngest, which is Molly. I believe Molly was born in '60s. Um, but Ed and Molly were only kids. Sophie was like a teenager. Um, anyways, uh, one time Rosemary was taking Sophie to the dentist, and Jack being a big part of the paperwork, he was too busy to take his kids, Ed and Molly, to a school spring uh, dance, I believe it is. So he asked Felix, and Felix, being just been divorced and left and becomes an alcoholic at this point, he goes, picks the kids up, takes them to the dance, and gets drunk in the drinking zone. And he thinks it's a good idea to take them back home completely drunk. And this, of course, makes him swerve into a car, or speed into a car, making a car crash where it kills both Molly and Ed. And Felix, being completely terrified about his best friend, um, and what would he do if he learned that his best Felix had killed his kids in a drunken rage or depression. He decides to hide the kids in a forest and bury them. Um, at this point, I might as well bring this up. I think during a Christmas before this, um, I think it was Felix and um, Jack make a animatronic puppet. I think it's just a puppet. Actually, I think it was just a doll at the time, but Rocket Rabbit. It was supposed to be a prototype character, and they gave it to Molly for a. Well, actually, they gave it to Ed and Molly, but Molly was the one who took favoritism over it and called it Rocket. And basically, when he buried them, their souls, being angry with him, possesses the doll that is Rocket, and of course it gets. I don't know if I believe it stands up with the two spirits and goes to haunt others that are connected to the Bonsburgers. Um, so the two kids are possessing Rocket's rabbit, but here's one of the confusing parts: is we don't know if they're vengeful towards, like, they're probably vengeful towards um, Felix, because at that point in time the spirits blame him and it's all his fault. Um, but I don't think they would go out and try to like kill anyone else. I believe it might be a William Afton kind of situation where they may hurt people because they have the same outfit, but I don't know. Um, and then I'm trying to think after that. After that, it seems like Jack and Felix get an argument. Jack's wondering where the fuck his kids are, and Felix may have gotten too angry and may have killed Jack. Um, because the biggest thing is weeks after, after this, there is a disappearance of Jack, and I think her name is Suzanne. She is the creator and technician on the animatronics. And she realizes that Bon is acting weird. He's not working properly. This may signify that Jack was stuffed into Bon. And of course, Jack's spirit throughout the entire three-part, um, he's looming over this franchise. He's blaming and mocking Felix, and he basically is the face of all these dark happenings. So I believe Jack's soul was angry at the point in time, so his anger just kills whomever it touches. So I believe Bond, the rabbit Bond animatronic, is a angry Jack spirit that just kills whomever. Um, um, I think within months, a month or a few weeks, his wife Rosemary goes looking for him, and ends up going into the Bond's burgers. She gets lured into the back by either Bond the robot or a new character that is still a mystery, is the Shadow Man. And the Shadow Man is what everyone thinks as the dark entity that's like kind of like Andy's apple farm, where there was a demon that basically killed the entire family from Andy's apple farm. I believe this is another situation where bad things happened and this spirit is the biggest thing to blame. It might be just Jack's spirit, but right now we believe this might be another demonic presence that is killing these workers and killing these family members of the Waltons. Um, but anyways, Suzanne goes to look on Bond and try to fix him, and gets killed and brutalized by Bond, and is forced into the Banny animatronic, which is the female purple Bonnie rap thing. Um, wait, shoot, I went two ways. So Rosemary gets pulled and gets lured into the back by either Bond or the shadow figure, and is slaughtered by Bond, and her pieces of her body are forced into the lamb. I think her name is Shaw, and with Suzanne after she sees the funky looking after Jack's disappearing, seeing how Bond moves, she goes expects the animatronic, but gets ripped apart and forced into Banny. Um, so now we have Jack probably in Bond. We have Suzanne and Banny, and we have Rosemary in Shaw. Um, and then I believe it's kind of this is one of the more mysterious characters. Like, sure, we don't truly know if Jack is in Bond, but it seems like the most logical. Um, but there is another employee known as Charles, and he's the one who gets put into the ringleader Bozo. Um, and the only thing we can kind of think is he may have been like the party planner, because during a mini game that is like Let's Played, um, it's basically a setup to a birthday party. There's another piece of evidence where there was a initial signing a document that had the letter C at the beginning, so he may have been a higher up manager, like the the Cyber Fun company. He may have been a like manager that watches over this particular part of the franchise, and like a little small history about Cyberfun. The CEO, the creator, the founder of that ends up dying, and his son takes over and gets more into this kind of thing of Bond's Burgers and all that. And he's one of the signatures on that, along with I think Felix was the other signature. So Felix, the founder of Cyberfun's son, and what we think might be Charles, has signed off on this document, and we believe Charles may have been a supervisor, but he also may have been the employee that watched over everything, made everything scheduled, and he may have been too close one birthday party and end up getting attacked. That's the only thing we can think of for Charles. Um, I'm trying to think. So we know what happened to the kids. Apparently, we don't know when this happened, but Sophie was apparently a employee at this at one of these facilities, either at K9 or the Bonds Burgers. She may have been like doing a part-time shift for her father there, to cover some part of the employment, and it seems like Bond has attacked her, and this makes her traumatized, along with the missing of her father, mother, and siblings. She probably is going crazy at this time, and if Bond actually attacked her, she would be freaking like almost a lunatic at this time. And she takes pills. She mentally pushes these memories back to the back of her head. Um, and a big thing that is mentioned, I'll mention later, but who said this, but apparently it's either the entire family or just the siblings, Ed and Molly, are waiting for her to return. That way she can be forced into this animatronic. And I believe this is like this is the original family of employees and the Walten family all together again in eternity as long as the animatronics live on. Um, and I'm trying to think what's after that. And then in 1980, I believe, actually no, 1978, I believe it was when K9 was supposed to be starting, and the caretaker, known as Brian Welts, I think it was told to go check on the facility, and he ends up trying to mess with Bond, making sure Bond is working, and Bond ends up attacking him, and because he has the employee outfit, um, they think that Bond thinks it's Sophie, so he ends up getting killed. And then again, not long after that, there is three technicians or like restorators that are put to a job in K9, and two of them, all three of them, find there's a lot of failures, that it's almost impossible to redo this project, and the two guys end up just going to sleep while Ashley, the third only female technician, goes on her own using a mysterious small key on her key ring and goes around the facility looking for what it goes to. Ends up finding the back rooms where there's a lot more storage than meets the eye. But the thing is, this wasn't covered in any of their technician coverage, where they go over the plan of the building. There nothing is explained where this back rooms is, and she finds where spare parts are, where there's extra like stuff that wasn't released to the public. There was even spare animatronics that were not released to the public. I'll go back on that one. And there is a animatronic slash puppet version of Rocket Rabbit, which doesn't do anything. It's just there hanging up. And I believe this may or may not have been a prototype. Jack making it be like, hey, this is my kid's favorite thing. I'll make it an animatronic. Um, but thing is, it doesn't exactly tell us why they exist. But anyways, it's there, and then she ends up going to Billy the Clown. I think it is. Um, it's shown it's meant to be pulled aside, but it in one of the like 8-bit games, um, 8-bit games, it shows that it's in the same room as the other animatronics, but I'm kind of confused. It could be Bozo I'm thinking of, but Billy was like this, like the celebrating character. Like he celebrated birthdays and all that. He was meant for birthdays, and he had a tape player in his chest, kind of like a Teletubby. And she found a tape, put it in. It was supposed to be happy birthday song, made from Bond's Burgers, to be unique, and it ended up going over a log of people they wanted. It goes over Susan, it goes over Charles, it goes over Jack and Rosie, but it also goes over um, Sophie. Sophie is the only person that isn't in the log, that is not killed and put into an animatronic at this point. And apparently, Ashley wasn't supposed to see that or hear that, and Bond finds her and kills her, puts her inside Billy the Clown, and I guess she does survive for a very long time throughout the night. But the thing is, she's in the back room, so it's a lot more silent to the outside building. I mean, the other rooms of the building, and the other two things she left and leave her, and she ends up dying. And she does get turned into the new animatronic. Um, but it does also seem that they may be alive somewhat. Because there's like the Banny situation where Susan is basically saying she's alive, but she's in a constant cage slash she's in a starving situation, but she doesn't starve much because of the shadowy figure. Um, so there's like a lot of stuff to cover, and I got a little bit of time. So it's kind of all over the place with the shadowy figure and Charles. We do know certain employees that go missing. But after those three technicians and the missing of Ashley and Brian, the caretaker, they just disregard it. So, and apparently Felix is still alive at this point because he is the head of the project, trying to return it back to normal. So you kind of gotta wonder: is he playing a Henry role where he wants to get all the people together and free them from the facility, or does he want more incidents? And has he gone William Afton crazy at this point? Because we do learn that he is seen as the face of this franchise. There's even a founder photo where he's cut Jack out of the picture, um, to completely forget that part of the history. Um, Rebranding as sorts. But anyways, that's kind of like the history of most of the people that died. We do learn that Sophie is, I think, in college or in an apartment. Her best friend Jenny, who's a few years older than her, lives with her, and I think they're in college at this point. And they end up getting a game in their apartment installed, which ends up being Bunny Farm, a Bunny Smiles interactive entertainment product, which is basically Bond's Burgers video game that survived because apparently it was thrown out in different locations to be tested. It was a beta test game at this point, and most of them were recalled and torn apart. This was the one of the only few surviving models. So Jenny's over here playing it. She plays it normal. It's fun, but it's a little kiddish, she says. Then Sophie plays it, and I believe the game recognizes her name getting implemented, and it starts showing her the behind the scenes, shows her the murders, shows what happens to this person and that person, and her memories start not being so repressed. And she starts noticing, I knew these people at some point in my life, I just can't remember them fully. And then she realizes she sees her mother's face. She knows her mother's voice, and when she finally plays the Shaw mini game of that arcade game, she's introduced to her mother, forced into that animatronic, and her mother asks her, "Do you still see me as beautiful, my daughter?" And it's like, oh boy. And then it's just revealed slowly. Her memories start coming back to her that she was a part of the Walton family that originally made this company, and there was so many horrifying things that gone missing. And then the biggest part of her memory that was repressed was the missing of her siblings Ed and Molly. Um, they're shown as E and M, red figures, and during the I think it's during the Shaw mini game. And then there's another figure which is another animatronic that may have been in that in the back rooms, and it's shown that he may have been a animatronic that was meant for future installments, and he was a fun time Freddy kind of look, but with a blue outline. And you kind of do see in his like the cavity area there is blood, so it's just who died to possess that one. This could be a shadow figure implementing memory just to force her to go back. But I believe this might be another character. Hell, this might be Jack forcing his daughter to remember, be like, I need you to come free us. Um, but that blue bear is kind of like, so there's the blue bear. We don't know what happened to Charles or who he was, why he was a part of this, and then we don't know who the shadowy figures. And if it's Jack, that just means he's just a figure of himself anymore. Um, but anyways, the bear does say, "I can show you the memory lane. I can show you these things, but you need to be willing to remember them." And she ends up running into the memory of Molly and Ned. Shows how they died, and shows them how they possessed Rocket, and that they're waiting for her. So I believe part 4 might be her reaching out to finally get this done, and then we also might get these other mysteries solved. But the biggest thing that is being teased. I think there was a season one trailer for them, and it teased that Jack was gonna confront Felix, um, either twice or all in one go. Both in the part four trailer and both in the season one trailer. So we may figure out what happened to Jack within part four at least. But anyways, it's like those questions. There's a few other things like there's a few little things I'll throw in before I have to go get ready. But it is revealed that there is other characters. Like there's a horse, there was a hippo. Those are probably characters that would have been made into animatronics and were put in the back rooms just like that blue bear. I do need to look back, but it does look like they were already thinking about expanding once they actually got implemented. But it doesn't look too good for those characters now. But it basically is just a company that tried to start up. There was a lot of mishaps that ended up um, killing off a family and most of the major employees. Like the freaking person who made the animatronics died. So that those animatronics in that back rooms were probably things she was working on, but before she could finish them, they were unfinished projects at first. She died to Bond getting stuffed into Banny. Um, but anyways, it's just like we can we need to figure out these characters. We need to figure out a few of the backgrounds, and then we'd probably be set for Walten Files life. But anyways, I gotta go get ready. Um, that's basically some summary of Walten Files, GT Live. I think it's GT Live. Film Theory does it, but GT Live does has a few theories um, that are pretty good. Um, but it is kind of realistic. Like I will say, there is one thing in I think it is a website. It does bring up a text that happens after part three, which is basically Sophie going to Jenny saying, "I know what this game was showing me visions, showing me memories. I remember stuff. I remember my mother's voice. I remember this and that. This place has a big connection to my background, and I want to figure out." So I believe part three was the setup, along with this website, was to be ready for part four and to figure out what to do now. Because at this point, there is the restoration of 82 has been called off. Sophie, I believe, is 22 at this point. Um, so it's like most of the things from the previous things are already done, and anything forward would be what happens when Sophie goes to this facility to figure out what happened to her family, or what if we find more about the arcade game. I don't know if there's much to mine on that one, but there's possibilities to go back to it. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.